Surprise University.
A service of Babylon Theater
presents
Education Warmed Over.
Postmodern Education for the Modern World.
Real SU classes.
Repackaged and produced
Just
for you
to watch anytime.
on this station. Ooh. Tonight's program is...
Welcome back to the best intro class on campus this term. And I'm not referring to the curriculum, ladies and gentlemen. I mean you, the students. No one could have expected a better group of people for an intro class than you folks have been so far. Many of you have stopped by to see me at my table in the coffee shop, and I always enjoy talking with you. Today I'm going to talk about how far-reaching are the concepts which we are dealing with here, and also which Mr. Werber's Babel 101 is as well. In a way, it didn't really matter which class you signed up for first, given that you had to choose one or the other. While Babel 101 is coming from a slightly more technical, right-brained, if you will, approach, and we here in Learnation are a little more laid back and intuitive, unstructured in our approach. Both classes are heading to the same goal, and that is to begin a serious journey into what Greg and Nolan have described as doing Babylon theater. Folks, I was living in Salt Lake City in the 1970s when Babylon theater came on the scene. And by Babylon Theater, I mean not only Nolan and Greg, but also for several years, Scott and Kim. During that time, especially, they were always doing something in that city. All of them had been going to college, or working in the local theater scene, or both. They didn't know me yet, we hadn't met. I was just a fan of theirs, I suppose, as were many other people. In those days, they might have noticed me being in the audience of every stage show, poetry festival, or nightclub act that they did in Salt Lake and the surrounding areas. I knew that Greg and Nolan had been living in the top floor of a house which they called the Old Fort. People said that Oval Rubber was a friend of theirs, and that he had married a girl from Tooele, whom the bad boys had introduced him to. All of this is just leading up to introducing the phrase we are going to talk about today, and that phrase is, when we say you, we mean you. You know, over the years, I would read anything written about Babylon Theater that I could find, until the last couple of years when I became acquainted with the B-Boys and got to know them more here at SU. At that time, I became interested in doing Babylon, but this doesn't come easy. Then, sometime in 2016, came those first words from beyond, contacts made. The B-Boys, until then, had been experimenting with various ideas for late-night products. Their companies were on every channel. BB Art Jig and BTO Bust, two late-night heavyweights by 1976, acted like they were competitors. But actually, they were both Babylon companies. Products, Babco asterisks in a can, claimed their turf on one syndication network, while one of their own siblings, say perennial favorite Mermaid Mink Oil, lobbed exotic depth charges over their bow. One of them, Gregor Nolan, said at the time, "The new battle cry will be careful what you wish for, we might actually get it. When we say you, we mean you is possibly the first attempt at translating a principle from the ancient Babylonian comics manual for Babylonian comics, ancient and modern. If preliminary code-breaking attempts are able to get our word under the door, we might be able to prove that we are smart enough to translate English into Babel. Some scholars, one or two at least, have dedicated their careers, or at least a few hours of them, to trying to understand that inscrutable phrase, when we say you, we mean you. But with growing access to idiomatic background and the tendency to use metaphor and simile to mean the opposite of the literal translation, which seems to have been a hallmark of Babel structure, led by the indefatigable Rember Werver, who has been known to take the same class 4 times until he got it right, and supervised for academic standards by Professor Nate Nothan. Intellectual rigor is the motto for a consortium of teachers and office support experts who have now announced that they are ready to take a stab at part of the phrase based on an informal protocol that includes, of course, consulting Greg and Nolan frequently about their own experiences while using the phrase. So now, for the first time, and in the context of this class, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to release a suggested translation of a segment of that studied phrase. The segment, when we say you. The suggested translation, all power is in the outward flow.